kid I'd ever worked with that the moment someone starts to be honest, it has to come from them. You can't pull it out, you have to let them find it. She said, I've been thinking about what happened, and I don't think I was wrong about everything, but I know I was wrong about the report. I said, okay. She said, I didn't expect you to be the way you are. I said, what way? She said, calm. Like nothing I did bothered you. Like you'd seen it all before and you weren't impressed by any of it. I said it bothered me. I just chose not to let it change how I treated people. She was quiet again. Then she said, I've been the way I am for a long time. At my last job I was the same. The job before that too. I don't know how to be in a room without making sure everyone knows I'm in the room. I looked at her and I saw myself at 15. Standing in a hallway making sure everyone moved when I walked. Making sure no one forgot I was there. Making sure I was never the one who felt small by making everyone else feel smaller. I said, I understand that more than you know. She looked at me like she didn't believe me. I said, I used to be the worst bully you've ever met. Worse than anything you've done here. I did things to people that I'll carry for the rest of my life. I changed because someone showed me what my behavior was doing to a girl who wanted to stop being alive because of me. That's what it took. A girl who didn't want to be alive. Dina's face changed. The hardness that was always there cracked just slightly. She didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, I don't want to be this person. I said, then don't be. But saying it isn't enough. You have to actually do the work. Every day. Even when it's easier to go back to what you know. She nodded slowly. She stood up and pushed the chair back and walked toward the door. She stopped before she left and said, I'm sorry about the report. I said, I know. She left. Dina didn't become a different person overnight. That's not how it works. I know because it took me years. But she started small. She stopped making comments about people's work in front of others. She started saying good morning to people she used to ignore. She brought coffee for the team one Friday without announcement or expectation. They were small things, but in an office where people had been walking on eggshells for 3 years, small things felt enormous. Willa noticed first. She told me Dina complimented her filing last week and didn't make it backhanded. June said Dina offered to help her with a project and actually followed through. I didn't celebrate any of it out loud. I just watched. Because I know what it looks like when someone is trying to change, and I know how fragile that process is, and I know that the worst thing you can do is turn it into a spectacle. 6 months after I transferred to that office, things were different. Not perfect. Dina and I weren't friends. We probably never would be. But we were colleagues who could sit in the same room without tension leaking into every interaction. The team worked better. People spoke up in meetings. People helped each other without being asked. The hierarchy Dina had built dissolved not because anyone tore it down, but because no one needed it anymore. Lorraine told me during my 6-month review that the office morale had improved significantly and that multiple team members had cited the shift in culture. She asked me what I thought had changed. I said I think people just needed to know it was safe to be themselves here. She nodded and said, keep doing what you're doing. I drove home that evening and sat in my car for a few minutes before going inside. I thought about Alma and the letter her mother wrote. I thought about the counselor who read it to me and didn't let me look away. I thought about Dina sitting at my desk telling me she didn't know how to be in a room without controlling it. And I thought about the version of me that would have destroyed her without blinking. That version is still in there somewhere. I can feel her when someone pushes me. I can feel her when someone tries to make me small. She doesn't go away. She just doesn't get to drive anymore. The difference between who I was and who I am isn't that the instinct disappeared. It's that I learned there are better things to do with power than break people. I could have broken Dina. I chose not to. And sitting in that car, I realized that choosing not to wasn't weakness. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than any apology. Harder than any workshop or degree or volunteer shift. Because the easiest thing in the world is to hurt someone when you know exactly how. The hardest thing is to know exactly how and decide not to. That's the real playbook. Not the one I wrote in high school. The one I've been writing every day since.